So, tell me something terrible. How's that drink treating you?
So good.
So good?
So good.
A Mary Pickford, now that we've remembered.
Yep.
We won't talk about take one of this.
Not at all.
It's a pineapple rum cocktail.
Yep.
It looks like a slushy.
It does. Well, it kind of separates a little bit. It's delicious. It's frothy at the beginning, and then if you let it set, it gets like frothy on top and more watery on the bottom. Doesn't matter. Both are delicious.
Nice. And the recipe is from our 1941 recipe book.
Yep.
And we made a TikTok of it. And
Yeah.
and at the same time a reel.
It's become very much like a little mini series. We're just going to thumb through and find fun drinks.
Pretty much if we have the ingredients to make it, we will. And we happen to have a pineapple.
Yeah. Why?
I don't know why I bought a pineapple.
Shits and gigs?
No. I was going to, when we made Cowboy Caviar, it was optional, but I just used mango.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Which is also delicious.
Anyway, shamelessly plug that TikTok.
Yep.
Tell me something terrible?
Sure, why not?
Yep, it is.
I have no clue.
No, it is.
It's just Tell Me Something Terrible?
Yeah, because we looked it up at the end of last episode.
Sure,
or
why
somewhere.
not?
Anyway.
We're professionals.
So professional.
Just kidding.
This is a big occasion.
Yes.
You said that like you're like, it is, and you're going to tell me what it is.
Yep. What is it?
Episode 100?
Wait.
What?
I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Scott.
And you're listening to Tell Me Something Terrible.
Yeah, you are.
Are you sure you're Scott?
Yeah.
You didn't sound very confident.
You were like, it is episode 100. Wait. And I was not expecting, and then your name.
Yep.
I thought it was another part 2 of some announcement.
No, this episode will be a part 2.
A 2-parter,
Yeah.
some would say. Mm-hmm. Good.
Yep. Because Scott had this wonderful idea. He goes,
Let's not use the term wonderful.
why don't you, for episode 100, because it's a big deal.
Yeah, well, we were like brainstorming, like we should do something big for it.
So he goes, why don't you pick the case that got you interested in true crime?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, but okay. So
It's not going to be rainbows and sunshine.
Absolutely not.
It's not going to be cryptids.
Nope. So my mother handed me a book when I was like 12 or 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I may or may not have been going through her closet and found it. And she was like, go ahead, read it. It's fine. Nosy Nelly.
Yeah.
Traumatized.
Who keeps weird true crime books in their closet? Red flag number 1.
Okay. Well, also, like, my parents' closet was huge because we had
it's like a
it's
separate
like a
storage room.
two-door walk-in giant closet. She had boxes filled with her true crime books. So she was trying to hide her true crime books, but then there's me being like, what's in your closet? And it was on the floor, which is easily accessible. So if there's secret things you need to hide from your children, maybe put them on the top shelf and not on the floor.
You probably don't want to know what was on the top shelf then.
Absolutely not.
If this is the bottom shelf goodies, you don't want to know the top shelf goodies.
No.
Okay.
No. Oh. We have bottom shelf goodies we should probably hide in a top shelf area.
Anywho.
So anyway, found these books, and she was like, yeah, go ahead, read this one. And it was called The House of Secrets.
And
it was about the Sexton family.
You say that like they're famous.
There actually were recent short documentaries that were released about them.
Like recently now or recently?
Yeah,
then?
recently. Like one
Okay.
of them I listened to. One of them I watched was from 2021. And it was an interview with one of the children. So Scott was like, why don't we cover the case that got you interested in true crime? And I was like, sure, why not? How did they multiply?
They're flies. That's what they do. These flies are going to ruin our TikTok clip.
Yeah, they are. Or make
our
us TikTok famous.
Yeah, when I swallow one mid-sentence.
So my mother handed me the book that I'd found and was like, read this. Again, like 12 or 13 years old. I'm going to preface this with literally every single trigger warning imaginable. All of them.
Okay.
Rape, suicide, sexual assault, cults, murder, violence toward children.
Which one? Just leave
domestic violence.
Say.
Literally everything.
Okay. You've been warned. This may not be suitable for all listeners.
No, I was...
Parental discretion is advised.
I was...
Unlike your 12 to 13-year-old childhood.
I was 100%.
Was that a pretty good Amanda?
It was
Wine
great.
And crime?
Type 1 diabetics unite.
Right.
So I was baptized by fire.
Yes.
She was like, what's the worst thing I could give her? This one. Photos and everything. Because back from like the true crime books from the 90s, like in the middle, they had like photos. They had like a glossy section.
Oh, like, yeah.
Of
like
photos.
How encyclopedias had like the pictures of all the presidents.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
That's what
Except
we had
this
growing
was
up.
dead babies.
That's what we had growing up.
Yeah,
You'd
no,
think
that's
I would
not
know
what I
the
had.
presidents better. FDR and his goddamn polio.
Don't you mean Cleveland and his goddamn polio?
Whatever. I wanted to tweet back at Beth because she tweeted at me, how do you not know? She went to FDR high school, so she knew all this shit about FDR. We went to Napoleon, and I still know shit about Napoleon.
French. He had the complex, Napoleon.
He was short. Whatever.
Actually, he was average. Well, technically, he was average for the height during that time.
Anywho.
Anyway, doesn't matter. Back stateside. So, when Charles Sexton...
Oh, we're going. Okay, cool.
Right into it.
I'm dialed in.
Uh-huh. When Charles Sexton was just 8 years old, he held a snub-nosed .357 revolver with the hammer pulled back just inches from his father's face while Eddie Sexton woke up.
Okay, Eddie's Charles' dad.
Yes.
Okay.
Eddie managed to wrestle the loaded gun from Charles, threatening to shoot the 8-year-old.
Okay.
Later...
Normal Tuesday in the Sexton house.
Father-son relationship.
Yep.
So... Later, Charles says there's, quote, no explaining how much hate I have for that man. I blame myself. Can't stand that bastard. And if I'd had just pulled the trigger, none of this would have happened.
Okay. So I was trying to figure out who the bad guy was here. I didn't know if it was a young Charles. Eddie's the bad one.
Eddie's the bad guy.
Okay.
And we're just getting started. Just gets worse from here.
Good news. Charles, 8, same age as our kid. So... This is going to really end. This is going to go well.
Yeah. So
I stopped drinking like 12 minutes ago, and I may need to pause in the middle of this. We'll
yeah. She going to get heavy. So Eddie Sexton was born to a part-time Baptist preacher in 1942 in West Virginia.
More are than aren't, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Look, why do you think I struggle so much with the whole concept of Christianity? Like, there's something wrong with this country.
Well, yeah, old-timey Baptist preachers weren't,
So I found something new out this weekend.
Okay.
It's from listening to Behind the Bastards. Back when baptism, like Baptist as a sect of Christianity happened, back in like literally like the 1600s, they wanted to do away with gender identity. They were like, fuck it. We don't care. There is no gender. God is female. God is male. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
And then at some point during the 1800s, shit got fucked up. And then it got fucked up again in the 1980s, and that's when they became all anti-choice.
Huh.
Yeah. 1980s.
Yeah. Not 1880s.
It's fine.
It's fine.
We're fine. A lot of shit went wrong in the 80s.
I mean, we were born, so yeah.
Yep. Anyway, I digress. So he was born to the part-time Baptist preacher in 1942 in West Virginia, and then everything went downhill from there. He always sucked.
Is this back-to-back West Virginia stories?
No, this one eventually moves to Ohio and then Florida.
Trifecta. Just kidding.
So he always sucked. Eddie did.
Yep.
He was born 7th out of 10 children with a strict upbringing. And
Lucky number 7.
Yeah.
Terrific.
So he was brought up in a very extremely poor household, very conservative. Eddie started acting out as a way to have some semblance of control as a child.
Okay.
Just for funsies, he would hang the family chickens on the clothesline and then cut off their heads with machetes.
That is our second red flag of the podcast.
What was the first?
Your mom.
Baptist.
No, I said red flag, something about your mom and
giving me allowing me to read this.
Yes. No, her hoarding her true crime books.
So mine's not hoarded. Mine's are out on display on that shelf that where all those our daughters having a sleepover on Sunday in the room.
Who's Stephen King? And our kid can read that shit too.
Yeah, she can. I got handed my first Stephen King book at 13.
Yeah, well, she's 8.
Yep.
But chapter books are no problem for her.
They absolutely are not. She's just plunged through like 1.5 of them, and I don't even ever see her reading.
She's reading right now. I went upstairs at 9:30. She's been in bed for an hour, and she's just reading.
Look, that's fine.
Anyway.
So, as a young adult, he did a 5-year stint in prison for robbery the day after he married his 15-year-old pregnant girlfriend, who proceeded to
There's
divorce.
a lot to digest there. So they got hitched. The next day,
he was arrested for robbery.
Was he doing the robbery that day?
No, he was arrested for it the next day.
Okay, so he was wanted when they got hitched.
Yeah, he found out she was pregnant, got arrested the next day.
Okay.
And then she proceeded to divorce him after giving birth to his first son.
Can you divorce someone when you're 15?
You know what? Here's the thing I don't get. It's just not dawning on me.
Okay. There's just a lot going on there.
There's a lot. Also modern day, because Tennessee removed the minimum age requirement from the verbiage regarding its common law marriage. And then once it was brought up to them, they never fixed it. They were like, whoops, and just ignored it. Here's the thing.
Common law marriage have to didn't it used to be here like you had to be
7 years or 10 years or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, but here's the thing that I don't understand, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Marriage technically is... I'm going through a lot right now. Okay, marriage technically, if you don't look at it from a spiritual, if you look at it as just an objective point of view, marriage is a contract between two people binding themselves together. You've got all this legal shit.
Yep.
If technically contracts are invalid if you're underneath the age of 18, because 18 is the age of an adult, why the fuck are marriages underneath the age of 18 valid?
Probably you have your witnesses be over 18, the same way you can get a tattoo if you're under 18.
I'm just going through a lot right now.
It's all those slushified shots of
Bacardi.
Rum.
100%.
Yep.
Anyway, back in the 50s, they got married.
Robbery, prison.
Had the baby, went to prison. She got divorced, permanently bounced, which was the best thing to ever happen to her.
Okay.
Because soon after, Eddie met the woman named Estella May, known as May in the family, and settled down in Ohio.
All right.
So this is where Eddie would threaten his wife's life on the rag if dinner wasn't done.
I mean, hangry's a real issue for some people.
Yes.
So Eddie's just an extremist.
So look, you got to get your jokes out early because this is going to take a turn.
I'm really trying.
So eventually she became meek and quiet like every beaten good housewife becomes. The couple went on to have 12 children together.
That's a lot.
Yep.
That takes a while.
Yep. So to support his ever-growing family, Eddie took jobs as a handyman and painter.
Okay.
While dabbling in disability and insurance fraud from an alleged back injury and MS.
Okay.
So he also made up burglaries and a couple of small fires in his home to collect that insurance money.
Yes, you do.
Mm-hmm. And then he also became a part-time pastor.
Oh, well, the family trait.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have way too many kids, and you got to start getting that money wherever you can.
Mm-hmm. So his flock and others outside of his home, which was typical, like it was his house. Their house was a typical Midwest house. It was
4 bedrooms, 12 kids. Typical Midwest house.
Yep. It had proper landscaping, toys littering the front yard and the porch, alongside their statue of a handless Jesus.
Why didn't Jesus have hands?
Because one day, Eddie got all cray and took the children out in front of this statue of Jesus and proceeded to cut his hands off.
I want it to be with a samurai sword.
No, it was probably a hatchet.
Why'd he cut Jesus' hands off?
Because he's crazy.
Okay, good.
We'll get to it.
All right. I was hoping there was more. I wanted a metaphor here, Eddie. Don't just be all...
Nope.
Chopping hands off
Eddie
willy-nilly.
said that, I believe he actually told the kids that Eddie, is the Alpha and the Omega.
Oh, good. Yep, he's the chosen one. Mm-hmm. They're always the chosen one.
And then he chopped off Jesus' hands.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So Eddie was described by the townspeople at the time as charming and polite. He developed a small flock, preaching all the normal things, and then it got darker and
Brimstone
darker.
and fire, yep.
Mm-hmm. So he wanted... That's the normal things. The brimstone and fire.
Yeah.
So he wanted more tithing from his constituents and more control over his people. So Eddie started twisting scripture, weaving it into...
You feel that culty breeze blowing in?
Just a little bit. So
how long till he's the only one that can have sex with all their wives? Is that coming? Okay, the playbook is out there.
It's so much worse than you could even imagine.
Okay, the playbook's out there. I'm just wondering how much
it's not their wives.
Okay.
Just wait.
Okay, good. Not good, But okay, carry on.
So Eddie started twisting scripture, weaving it into a tale that put him as the false god in the middle that must be worshipped solely to get to heaven.
Wait, he wanted to be the false god?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay. And that he was the son of Lucifer, who bestowed special powers unto him. So he started to introduce the occult into his sermons and Satanism.
Okay.
Later, journalist Lowell Caulfield, that name literally doesn't matter.
Sure.
They wrote, Eddie Lee Sexton certainly maintained his own place of worship, but nobody could figure out what gospel he was preaching. A little general occult, a little fundamentalism, a little Satanism, a little sci-fi hustle.
I mean, it sounds like a great movie.
Mm-hmm. So naturally, all the truly God-fearing folk bounced, which left Eddie with only his most devoted flock, his children and his wife.
Oh, good.
Do you see where I'm headed?
Yeah, I don't want to see where you're headed, but I do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's bad.
All right.
So at home, things started to take a turn for the worst.
You imagine? Mm-hmm. Okay.
So one night, Eddie gathered the children and May around the table in a darkened dining room.
May's his wife's name.
May's
it's not
his
the
wife.
month that he gathered his children.
Estella May.
Yep.
So this dining room was littered, the table was littered with burning candles and books emblazoned with pentagrams.
A little seance time. Let's do this,
Yes,
Eddie.
it is. So Eddie came into the room in a dark cloak, holding a red bag on a tray.
Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm. So he prayed to Satan, calling for a sacrifice.
Okay.
And then he laid their cat, Misty, dead on the table.
Oh, Misty. It's always got to be. Start with animals. What happened to the chickens, Eddie? You moved up to cats.
So he slit her throat and poured the blood into the chalice and passed it around to the table, telling all the children to drink the blood or they would be going to hell.
Is this a fancy dinner? Dad's got his red sack and we got the nicest chalices out of the cupboard.
We pulled out our fine silver.
Our fine chalice?
So after the family carried along like it never happened, forbidden to ever tell a soul what was happening in the house.
And they all had cat blood stains on their shirt, so it was hard to play off.
It never came out of that tablecloth.
No. Or that red sack. That was actually just a, pillowcase. Yeah. Soaked red.
Oh, no. So there were rules for the Sexton household. They were told that their home was sacred and everything that happened inside their home was sacred.
Well, there was a false god living there. Of course it was.
Of course. So no one was ever allowed over to the house. Each child was allowed only one friend. The children were not allowed... just one.
Okay.
The children were not allowed to leave the property except for school, and you went straight to school and back home with no delays. They weren't allowed to talk to anyone about what went on at the house. And then every morning, the boys were given 25 cents, which was to be used to make a phone call directly to Eddie if any of the boys saw the girls talking to anyone in the hallways outside of classroom, like other students, teachers, the guidance counselor.
Yeah, a police officer.
Anybody.
Yep.
And then one day, Charles saw one of his sisters, Sherry, talking to a teacher between classes.
The nerve.
So Charles did what he was told to do out of fear of what would happen if Eddie found out that Charles didn't snitch.
Yep.
So Charles was called his dad. When the kids arrived home after school, Sherry was snatched by the back of her head and pulled down the hallway and into an empty bedroom because they were all empty, just mattresses for the kids.
Okay.
So this is where Charles heard Eddie yelling, followed by Sherry screaming, along with the sound of a full-on beating behind the closed doors. Charles felt horrible, but it was survival of the fittest in their household.
Yep, that's pretty terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So,
you're really ringing true to that podcast name this week.
Yeah, and this is what started
Happy 100th episode.
I'm fine.
We should have bought champagne for this episode.
No, rum. Just keep drinking the rum. I'm down to the bottom of it. Obligatory Pirates of the Caribbean quote
why is
here.
all the rum gone? We can't make those drinks quickly. They involve a blender.
I think 4 shots of Bacardi and I'm good.
Yeah.
Maybe. I've spent all day writing this.
We'll see how this goes.
It's fine. I'm fine. So one day, Charles was on the receiving end of Eddie's wrath, having drawn attention to the cops to their house after making a slingshot out of a rubber inner tube attached to the window.
Okay.
And then he accidentally hurt a neighbor with something that him and his brother shot from it.
It was the hands of Jesus.
It was a battery.
They shot him across the yard.
Took out the neighbor.
Yeah.
So
hey, Dolores, catch these. You want to catch these hands? They're Jesus' hands. Sorry.
So as punishment, Charles and his brother Willie were beaten and shoved into their closet, where Eddie proceeded to spray cans of Raid through the crack in the door. And this is where the boys passed out and slept overnight.
Slept's a fun word.
Mm-hmm.
Slept. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Charles doesn't remember falling asleep. He just knows that he did.
Because he was standing up and then he woke up. And there was some fuzziness in between.
Yeah.
And he was wondering why there was a bee infestation in their house.
Their closet.
Yeah.
So the only time that there was peace in the house was when the family was dancing.
Or when people were passed out from Raid.
Mm-hmm.
When they were dancing?
Yep. So what's wrong?
This isn't going to be cute. Mm-mm. No, it's not going to be like precious, like family time.
Nope.
Okay.
May loved dancing.
Did she actually?
Yes, she did. She loved dancing. She truly loved dancing.
Okay,
just
good.
Music and dancing.
Mm-hmm.
So they would put on music and dance. Eddie, urging his daughters to dance seductively.
Okay.
And then one night, to May and everyone else's horror, Eddie came to the living room with their eldest daughter, Pixie, who's also named Estella May.
But they call her Pixie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to distinguish between May and her.
We could have called her Estella, but okay.
Mm-hmm. So Pixie was dressed with a long wedding veil, Eddie holding a holy Bible.
Okay, are they getting hitched?
The family looked on in stunned silence.
Wait, was she wearing anything else?
Yes.
Okay, good. I was just trying to figure out how traumatic this was for the rest of them. All right, so Pixie's about to marry her dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, the family looked on in stunned silence as he faced 17-year-old Pixie, Bible in hand, and proceeded to perform his own wedding ceremony to his eldest daughter.
There's a lot of layers there.
Mm-hmm. So Charles said, quote, "It was so quiet you could hear a church mouse fart."
Weird metaphor.
Yeah, look,
again, from a weird kid.
This man's been through a lot.
Yeah, I get that.
How you feeling?
I mean, I'm a little surprised he used a normal Bible. I feel like maybe he would have gone with one of his other documents. Yeah, this seems illegal on a lot of fronts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So May just looked at the carpet, knowing that if she intervened, she would just get beat.
Yep.
So Pixie seemed genuinely happy, though. She was completely in love with her father.
Okay.
I told you.
I'm trying to not like blow directly into the mic every time I sigh heavily, but I don't.
I just want to
I'm supposed to make like jokes during this podcast.
I know, that's why up front and heavy.
Yep.
I warned you. You were like, "Hey, great idea. We should do the case that got you interested in true crime."
Do you think?
And I told you it was bad.
Do you think one of the brothers, maybe the one that almost shot his dad in the face, had like a sick sense of humor? And when
the one who shot his dad in the face said church mouse fart, so
okay.
Yes.
So when they're coming down the hallway in their wedding attire, do you think he's like singing? He's like, "Here comes my dad. Here comes my sister."
No, I think they were.
Here comes my sister, mom.
He literally said,
my dad.
He literally said in the interview that I watched with him, like, "I didn't know what to think. Is my sister supposed to be my mom?"
No.
He was little.
Yeah.
He was like a preteen. Yeah.
You think you would understand the family dynamics that is a little backwards.
They're starting, but these children, like literally the alternative, if you said anything, is to get beat half to death.
That's true.
They were starved. It was awful.
Yep.
And gaslit. Like you weren't. It's bad. So after Eddie took Pixie into her room. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And consummated the marriage.
I was worried you were going to say that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There's a word for that.
Yep. There's a lot of words for that, actually.
It's rape.
Incest. Yeah, a lot of words for that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, because even though it was a consummation, and even though she was quote-unquote willing to marry her father, it's definitely still...
Yep.
Yep. So this had actually been going on for a while now.
He just wanted to make it legal.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Charles and Willie they had been witnesses to Eddie sexually assaulting his daughter in the basement when the two boys went down to the basement with the intent to hang out. Mm-hmm. So they quietly crept back up the stairs without getting caught.
Yeah.
And then Charles said that the pair regularly engaged in incest prior to and after this.
Of course.
Yes.
Okay.
And so she wasn't the only one being sexually abused. Eddie abused all of the girls alongside with the boys. And so did May.
God. Okay.
Yep. So after each incident with Charles would contemplate suicide, praying to God just to end his life for him.
I can understand that thought.
Mm-hmm. So Eddie married 2 of the younger daughters in the same fashion.
Okay. Did May marry any of the boys?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
So after his perverted marriage to Pixie, Pixie had her first child at 17.
Okay. Good.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
And another at 18. So
right.
Eddie also followed...
Wait, how many kids did they have
12.
originally? 12? And now we're adding 2 more that aren't from May. They're from May
Eddie.
Jr. Okay.
And then Eddie also fathered at least one more child with another of her younger siblings.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then Joel moved in. His name was Joel Good. He moved to Ohio to live with his aunt and uncle after his parents died. Okay. Nice, simple Joel had taken a liking.
Where'd he move in?
He moved into Ohio with them, with his aunt and uncle.
All right. Not with these, not
no,
with the
this
Sextons.
is just a stranger. His name is Joel. It's a new character.
Yep.
So
enter stage left.
Yes. Simple Joel had taken to a liking to shy, innocent seeming Pixie. And rumors were spreading through the community about the Sexton family, and the Stark County Police had quietly been investigating them for years. Not many people were buying into Pixie's children being born to a, quote, Navy man that was no longer around, or to a boy from school. So Eddie needed someone to take the suspicion off the goings-on at the Sexton's household. So after discussing this boy who had a crush on Pixie with her father, Eddie gave Joel permission to take Pixie to prom, and then later he allowed them to date. Joel would come over to the house after school and work to watch movies and hang out with the family, mostly Pixie.
Yep.
And then eventually he developed a close friendship with the eldest Sexton son, Willie, as well as a deep love for Pixie, and Pixie seemed to be happy with this relationship.
Okay.
So, Willie performed the marriage ceremony on their front lawn between Joel and Pixie.
The oldest brother?
No.
Oh.
Joel, the new guy.
No. You said Willie.
No, sorry, not Willie. It wasn't
Eddie?
Willie. It was Eddie. Eddie performed.
Eddie married his wife to her now boyfriend.
Yes. Years after they started dating.
That's not confusing.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
So then, soon after, Pixie was pregnant for a third time. She gave birth...
Father being...
We'll get to it eventually.
Okay.
In part 2. So she gave birth to a little boy named Skipper. Joel also took responsibility for Pixie.
Skipper? Who is naming these children? Pixie, Willie, Skipper. Come on, guys.
Yep. Look, it's a fairy tale.
I don't know if that's the right term. I feel like they're really influenced by pop culture at the time, maybe.
In the 80s?
Maybe. Anyway.
So...
Isn't that like Love Boat? Was there a skipper on that? I don't know.
I don't know. Gilligan's Island.
Something, yeah.
So, Joel took responsibility for Pixie's other 2 children, and the couple moved to a neighboring town, Pixie putting up the front that she was now in a happy marriage with a happy family, although she was still in love with her father.
Okay.
Yep. So life continued getting more extreme in the Sexton household as Eddie slipped further and further into paranoia, trying to exhibit more control over his remaining children. So he started teaching the boys to prepare for an all-out war, teaching them how to shoot and fight if someone dared try to take his other children away. And then his second oldest daughter had finally had enough. 16-year-old Michelle went to the school's guidance counselor.
What a normal ass name.
Yeah,
good for you, Michelle.
Oh, but here's the thing. It's spelled Machelle.
Michelle.
Michelle.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, that's how we say it anyway.
That's true. Anyway, she went to a guidance counselor, which was strictly forbidden.
Oh man, those quarters flying into the slot machines, the payphones.
So that happened in the fall of 1992. She told the counselor that Eddie had been raping her. Both Eddie and May had been sexually assaulting the other children, and Eddie had plans to rape and marry her younger sister, which she had even seen him kissing her.
Okay.
And then this is when her protective instincts kicked in. She knew the same things were going to happen to her grade school sister. She'd had enough. She was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
So the guidance counselor contacted CPS.
Naturally.
Yep. And they had been trying for years to break this case. Like, this is something the cops and CPS has been like, there's been something going on, but they haven't had any evidence, no leads.
Yeah.
So CPS showed up and took 5 of the younger children, placing them in temporary foster homes. The older teenage children decided to stay. So after a certain age, you can't take kids away. They get the choice to stay. Yep. I think it's 12. In Michigan, it's 12.
Is it? Okay, I wouldn't know. And I definitely wouldn't know West Virginia.
This is Ohio.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. He started in West Virginia, made it across the river.
They go to Florida at some point. Anyway.
Yeah, they do.
I forgot this is a long one.
Yeah. So this included Eddie's 3 teenage sons. Eddie was then
His
told...
mercenaries.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So Eddie was then told that he needed to leave the house and was not allowed to contact any of the children until after an investigation had been finished. So it literally didn't matter. Eddie immediately started scheming to get his children back. So one night, Michelle was told by her mother to please come home from the halfway house she'd been staying at. Michelle thought it was safe because Eddie wasn't at home.
Yeah.
And so she woke in the middle of the night to noises downstairs. Naturally, she went to investigate. And in the dark, she saw the lit end of Eddie's cigarette as he sat at the kitchen table. Eddie threatened her life, telling her that if he'd heard another word about her testifying to the police, he, quote, doesn't care where he is, in jail or on the moon, I will come back to get you.
Okay. Good threat.
Mm-hmm. So Michelle went back to the safe house the next morning, called the police to recant her statement, and packed her bags and went to stay with another woman in the church community that was willing to take her in.
She recanted her statement,
She
though?
fully recanted her statement.
It's not good.
So the police had nothing. They begged her to not recant, but that she was part of the witness and the evidence that they needed to build a case around Eddie Sexton.
Yeah.
They're like, you're safe. It's fine. Like, we'll keep you safe. And she still was like, nope, I'm good. So on November 21st, 1992, the war that Eddie had been training his boys for started. That day, he decided no one was going to keep him from his kids. And so he showed up at the house where he ordered the remaining teenage boys to barricade the house and board up the windows on the first story.
All right. This is going to end well, I can tell.
Actually, it ends not bad. So he handed the boys semi-automatic weapons and ordered them, quote, one shot, one kill. Eddie called the Stark County police, cussing them out and screaming into the phone that if they came to take him away again, he was going to leave a trail of bodies from him to his family.
All right.
Sane, right?
He likes a good threat.
He does. He's very good at the threats.
Yes.
And, of course, the police show up, armed to the teeth. They evacuate the entire street that the Sextons live on.
Yeah.
And
They're
Eddie...
rolling with a tank.
Yeah. Yeah, the 90s. Yep. Yeah, they started militarizing the police by then. Usually it was like big cities like LA and like New York.
Yeah. What year were the LA police riots?
The 80s.
Was it the 80s? Okay, good. This is after that. Mm-hmm. All right. So
I don't think they've made it quite...
We definitely have a helicopter overhead.
Not quite. We're in the Midwest, so we don't have quite as much funding in the Midwest as we do big cities.
You don't think they had a helicopter? Anyway.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Now,
you would have seen it in a documentary.
Yes, I would have. They would have mentioned it. They're just also armed with weapons.
Yeah.
And like bulletproof vests and stuff. The militarization hasn't quite made it to middle America yet. Just the edges. So anyway, they showed up armed to the teeth. They evacuate the whole street. Eddie ordered the boys to shoot anything that moved outside or came close to the house. The standoff lasted 2 days.
Okay.
Eddie received a phone call from a deputy who then showed up to the house. He instructed Charles that if the deputy looks down at any point, to shoot him. Charles had the man lined up in his sight, but he never dropped his head. Charles knew that if the deputy had, he would have pulled the trigger. He didn't have any other choice. That deputy managed to make his way to the front door and talked Eddie into coming outside to surrender. Eddie was arrested. And then he was fucking released on bond.
Okay. Well, why wouldn't he be? They didn't have any evidence. It's all been recanted.
It had been. And that's where we're going to leave you with part 1.
Oh, he's just standing out in his yard. He's probably in a dirty t-shirt. Like, he's probably a little overweight. Like, I can see it in my mind.
He hasn't shaved in days.
I don't know what this guy looks like, but I know exactly who this guy looks like.
He's thin right now.
Is he? Mm-hmm. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Cult leaders usually are, like, they're known as, like, eccentric and, like...
And food is, like, restricted in the household, and, yeah.
That's true. No McDonald's. They can't ever leave the house.
Yeah, exactly. So, it just gets worse from there.
Does it?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm leaving you at a high point.
I'm very excited for part 2.
Are you?
I mean...
You sound like it.
I'm curious.
I just want to,
But I know it's going to go poorly. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I just want to reiterate again, this was your idea.
Okay. In my defense...
You had no idea how I got started?
I was expecting, like, Jean Bonnet.
No.
Or something along those lines. Not whatever this horrible thing
Literally
is.
all of it.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Just, the worst Eddie ever.
Yes. The last name should have been the first red flag.
Sexton?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. If you've made it this far.
Congrats. And it's just going to get worse.
Yes, it is.
And thank you for being with us for 100 episodes.
And then hopefully you'll come back for the second half.
We've got 100 episodes, 2 trailers, and like, I don't know, 14 bonus episodes now or something.
Sure.
It's a lot.
Hashtag shameless plugging. $1 gets you those other 14 episodes.
On Patreon?
Yep.
It is. And, our Patreon's quote unquote growing slowly.
Very slowly. Yeah. It's going to get exponential. Tell your friends, guys.
Is it? Anyway, follow us on all our social media stuff.
Yep.
Mainly listen. We don't care about anything else. We just watch the listens because we're losers.
Yeah. Facebook's awful. It's fine.
TikTok's fun.
Sure.
Those videos seem fun.
You're not on the wrong side of TikTok. I'm just depressed.
Your algorithm's very dark.
My algorithm's all over the place.
My phone's
I get cat stuff all the way to end of the world stuff.
My phone's in dark mode. My content's pretty light. Anyway, thanks for watching, listening, whatever. We have a camera running, so I said watching.
Oofta.
We're not going to do an entire visual podcast.
No, you're not. We tried that.
Otherwise, you'll just see me yawning a lot away from the mic.
You will.
Anyway.
It's really hard to be serious and dramatic when you're like leaning back yawning like...
Lady, we're doing this on a Friday.
And I'm all like, he bloodletted a cat. And you're like yawning. Like, we
did this
you're
on
really
a Friday.
ruining
Anyway,
the vibe.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
And we will release part 2 next week.
Yes, we will.
Sound good?
Maybe this week, just for shits and gigs. Scott's got to recover.
Expectations low. And then if we over-deliver, good.
Great.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Goodbye.
Bye. Oof, that was terrible. Thanks for listening to our terrible podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen. Feel free to follow us on Twitter at TMSTPod.
And if you'd like to support the show, you can find us on Patreon at Tell Me Something Terrible.